You've heard his story 1,000 times, but let me tell you 5 dark truths behind the legend of Perseus. 5. His birth was a prison sentence. Perseus was a demigod, son of Zeus and the mortal Danae. But before he was chopping up monsters or deflecting lightning bolts, he was trapped in a bronze prison with his mother for 5 years. This isn't your standard baby's first Christmas present, but here's how it went down. Perseus's grandfather, King Acrisius of Argos, had consulted an oracle about the future of his bloodline. The response: a prophecy that foretold his grandson would kill him. So to avoid this grim fate, King Acrisius locked up his daughter Danae, believing this would prevent the prophecy from coming true. However, Zeus had other plans. The king's prison might have kept humans out, but gods are known to make their own rules. Zeus transformed himself into a golden rain of awesome and slid right through those bars. Danae wasn't exactly thrilled about being violated, but when Zeus is offering up some lovin', there's really not much you can do to stop him. The only bright side was that eventually she gave birth to Perseus, a beautiful baby boy who looked just like his dad. But that joy was short-lived because soon after he was born, Zeus had to scram, leaving behind a baby, a pregnant woman, and one heck of a mess. Just to add insult to injury, King Acrisius showed up ready to throw both Danae and her baby out into the sea. Talk about a royal welcome. Luckily, they washed up on the coast of Seriphos, where King Polydectes took Perseus under his wing, kind of. He allowed the kid to live, but he wasn't exactly a warm and fuzzy dad figure. In fact, he made Perseus's life a living hell, forcing him to do all the gross jobs around town and even tried to hit on his mom. Talk about a piece of work. What happened next turned Perseus into a legend. But let's face it, his story began with a nightmare. 4. He used Medusa's head as a weapon. Perseus was always willing to sacrifice his life to save his family and friends. It's a quality we admire, but he could have saved himself a lot of trouble if he'd just taken some time to think things through. When he found Medusa, the Gorgon, whose head would become his most famous trophy, she wasn't alone. She had sisters, 2 sisters, the Stheno and Euryale. You know, those sisters were Medusa's only friends and family. They loved each other fiercely, and they were prepared to defend each other with their lives. Maybe Perseus could have talked about how he needed the Gorgons' heads to rescue Andromeda. Maybe he could have negotiated, offered a trade, anything but what he did. Perseus crept up on the sleeping Gorgons, beheaded Medusa, and then ran away as fast as he could. And sure, he managed to escape the Gorgons' wrath, but he also left behind 2 grieving sisters who were now cursed to live forever in a world without their beloved sibling. It makes you wonder, would he have done things differently if he had thought about it? 3. He turned his enemies to stone, literally. Perseus didn't start out as a natural stone-cold killer. No, that power came to him courtesy of the gods. When King Polydectes was spreading rumors about killing Perseus's adoptive mother, Betaine, the young demigod sought help from the gods. Athena was the first to answer his call, gifting him a shiny new sword. Next up was Hermes, god of thieves, who hooked him up with winged sandals so he could fly away if things got hairy. Finally, Poseidon arrived riding a chariot pulled by 4 horses and presented Perseus with a bridle that would control sea creatures. But as awesome as these gifts were, they weren't exactly subtle. We're talking about tools of war here, weapons that could easily be used to cause harm. Sure, Perseus may have had pure intentions, but remember, the gods don't always play nice either. Take, for example, the whole Medusa incident. Those Gorgons weren't just misunderstood creatures. They were also Perseus's cousins. Yet he murdered them with a sword Athena had given him. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe the goddess had her own plans for Perseus, turning him into a ruthless killing machine. After all, Medusa's severed head still dripping with venom and the Gorgons' bodies dissolved into dust after he fled. That is some messed up stuff. 2. He was a pawn of the gods. If you think being born from a god and having superpowers is cool, think again. Being a demigod meant Perseus was basically a game piece for the gods to toy around with. Zeus threw him into a bronze box and sent him drifting across the ocean. Then when he finally landed in Seriphos, guess who shows up? Poseidon. You got it. King Polydectes, Perseus's adoptive father, was actually Poseidon's son. Talk about a small world. The sea god laid down some heavy hints about marrying Betaine, but she wasn't having it. Oh no. She wanted to marry a mortal man named Cepheus, which upset Poseidon big time. He flooded the island, trapping Betaine inside a cave. As punishment, Zeus then sent a giant sea monster to wreck the place. The monster killed many, including King Polydectes, and was heading straight for Bithynia until Perseus stepped in to slay the beast. And wouldn't you know it? He won the girl and the kingdom. Seems like a happy ending, right? Well, almost. He had to marry Andromeda, who he didn't love, and he never knew his father actually cared about him at all. 1. His story. Ended in madness, not glory. Perseus became king of Argos, married Andromeda, and started his own family. At first glance, it seems like a happily ever after ending. But look a little closer, and you'll see a much darker story. After killing the Kraken, Perseus was hailed as a hero. And let's face it, he was pretty hot at the time. He was young, strong, good-looking, and on top of the world. Everyone wanted him and his godly powers, especially the gods. They showered him with gifts, attention, and favors. For example, he could turn people into stone just by looking at them. But all that power didn't last forever. The same people who once worshipped him began to fear him. Medusa's head still dripping venom, the reflection of his evil deeds. Plus, he was tired of being a pawn in the gods' game. But instead of facing reality, he chose to ignore it, escaping into the arms of alcohol and women. Basically, he became a tragic hero who lost his way, proving that even legendary heroes can fall from grace. In the end, it was his own actions, not the gods or monsters, that caused him the most pain. Sure, he was half immortal and had crazy powers, but that didn't make him invincible to sadness. So remember, sometimes the darkest monsters aren't born of myth, but made in the hearts of men. And there you have it, the dark truth behind Perseus. It's amazing to think that someone considered a hero could have such a messed up past. But hey, that's what makes him such a compelling character. Anyway, thank you for watching. And as always, stay tuned for more historical tales.